people, how you doing? I hope you're having a damn great day. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be replicating Brendan Rodgers 4-3-3 Celtic tactics in the game FC24. Of course, if you enjoy it, hit the like button, but most importantly, we'll be showing you how you can replicate a realistic set of tactics into your game. So, let's hop on straight into the goddamn video. Now, taking a look at the formation at hand, it is a 4-3-3 holding. There's no major structural changes to it, so therefore it will be one goalkeeper, two centre-backs, two full-backs, one DM, two central midfielders, one striker, and then of course two wingers. So progressing on now to the tactics, and I think the best tactical vision that suits this side going forward, and as well as fits it realistically, is more or less the wing play approach. Of course, more so with a Brendan Rodgers side that looks to try and work the ball into those wider areas of the field, allowing for a very good link-up play between the fullbacks as well as the wingers, and allowing for either or to potentially supply a dangerous cross or a cutback opportunity for the attackers in and around the attacking third. As for the ability to suck players into those wide areas and more or less draw the opposition out, it will allow for your playmakers more centrally to have a bit more time and space on the ball, obviously to try and facilitate goal-scoring opportunities for either themselves or the attackers just in front of them. So moving on to the defense and the defensive style, it is set to press after possession loss. More so, you are looking to be very aggressive and proactive with trying to win the ball back when it is lost. Of course, you can create many goal-scoring opportunities with the very aggressive press, and more so, the front line does tend to force the opposition backline as well as their goalkeeper into going long, therefore playing into the hands of what Celtic and Brendan Rodgers are trying to do. That's more so winning the ball back. As for the team width, it is set to a very balanced but compact balance 40, more so trying to create those 1v1 situations, but more so your players will be very aware of the spaces in between them, so therefore it does have a very aggressive nature to it. As for the depth, I have set it to 80, more so it is to try and encourage the possession-based brand of football that you will be looking to instill. At the same time, with a very high line, it does invite a lot of pressure onto the opposition, forcing your fullbacks higher up the field, allowing them to try and pin the opposition back in their half in certain moments. But at the same time, you can be counter-attacked on, and of course, you do have Joe Hart in goal, and he's not necessarily going to make those runs outside of the box and try and save or reclaim the ball, or so you can somewhat be caught out with a potential counter-attacking opportunity from the opposition. As for the offense and the build-up play I've gone with is slow build-up. Now, more so, it will allow for your centre-backs as well as your midfield players to try and show for the ball when playing out from the back, of course, with goalkeeper restarts. It is very essential to a Brendan Rodgers side. They'll look to try and keep and maintain the ball as best as possible, and I think slow build-up does best reflect and suit how they play in real life. Of course, when you are building out slowly from the back, you do invite a lot of pressure, and more so the opposition's press is going to be very aggressive with trying to win the ball back, of course. But with this Celtic team, they have got very capable players of playing through the press, and therefore, when the opposition are trying to, win the ball back very aggressively, it does invite a lot of their players higher up the field, therefore leaving their backline very exposed. More so your forwards can make those runs into the space, trying to exploit the very light defensive awareness, you could say, from the opposition and allowing you to try and score those goals. At the same time, with the forward runs being set to be on, it will more or less encourage your players to get nice and high up the field, whether it's the forwards, of course the front three, or potentially the midfield. They'll look to try and progress nice and high up the field. At the same time as well, the fullbacks will be very involved in the attacking outlets. As for the width, I have set it to 80, more so to try and generate a bit more space in the central areas of the field. At the same time, more so to try and play into the hands of what Brendan Rodgers is trying to do. Have that link-up play and ability in those wider areas of the field, allowing for the fullbacks as well as the wingers to be able to draw the opposition into those wider areas. As for the players in the box, I've set it to 7, allowing for 3 to 4 players to be in that attacking area at all times, allowing and waiting for those crossing or cutback opportunities to try and latch onto and score the goals. As for the corners and the free kicks, as per always, it is set to 4. And I will say this Celtic team tend to score a lot of set piece goals, so therefore they are going to be very, very effective in FC24. So, starting off with the instructions at the back with the goalkeeper, of course, Joe Hart. He is set to come for crosses, being very good at claiming those aerial balls when they are whipped into the box. It can be from a cutback, from a corner, from a free kick, from a potential cross. He's going to be very aggressive. If the ball is anywhere within his vicinity, he is going to look to try and claim it as best as he possibly can. As for the saving outside of the box, however, I've set him to a balanced approach. I think more so Joe Hart is a more traditional based goalkeeper. He's going to look to try and stay on his line more so than make those adventurous runs outside of the box and circulate the play and try and reclaim the ball when it is whipped into no man's land. And there were quite a few times where I did see a long ball being played over the top of the backline of the Celtic defense, looking to try and expose them, looking to try and get the runners in behind. And more so, it did work because the likes of Joe Hart wasn't able to cover the ground or, reclaim the ball and circulate it back into play. As for your two centre-backs, of course, you've got the likes of Scales, who is set to his base set of instructions, as well as Carter Vickers, who is set to the base set of instructions with the interception set to conservative. Now, more so, he is going to try and be the sweeper of the two centre-backs. What I did note was the likes of Scales, or the left-sided centre-back, the likes of Brendan Rodgers does encourage them to drive the ball forward, and of course, this does create overloads in certain areas when you are forcibly pushing the ball nice and high up the field. So I would implore that you try and replicate this by having the likes of Scales drive forward, and therefore with the likes of Carter Vickers being set to conservative, he can look to try and sweep up in behind in case there is a turnover or something like that. As for your two fullbacks, however, Johnston as well as Taylor, they are set to the same set of instructions: join the attack as well as overlap, providing a lot of the width down the left and the right flank, especially if the two wingers do tend to make those more central runs, allowing them to be a bit more of an inverted forward. As for the defensive positioning, the likes of Brendan Rodgers does require, especially when you are looking to aggressively press the opposition, he does require the fullbacks to get nice and close to the opposition wingers or potentially those wider players, therefore allowing them to not have much space and allowing them to be somewhat ineffective with the offensive builder play from the opposition. As you'll see for the likes of Taylor, he's got the same set of instructions as well. Into your midfield, of course, the likes of McGregor. So for the defensive behavior, a bit more zonal for him. He'll look to try and intercept and break up play just in front of the backline. But for the attacking supports, normally with a natural number 6, you do require him to stay back while attacking. But for this approach, I think a more balanced role best suits how he plays in real life. He does tend to obviously progress the ball forward, and he does tend to hang back a bit, but at the same time, if the attacking opportunity is there, he will look to progress forward into the more attacking outlets or the attacking situation. As for the interceptions, I think it's best to go with a normal set of interceptions. If you go with aggressive, of course, that can replicate his mentality in the game, but because you already have a very exposed number 6 area with the balanced approach being on, I think it would be unwise to more or less have the aggressive interception set to be on, because more times than not, he will definitely be out of position and it can lead to a very exposed back four. As for the positioning freedom, I've told him to stick to position as well as the defensive position set to cover the center, looking to more or less sweep up in front of that back 2 or back 4 in certain moments and make sure he is looking to try and shield and protect them as best as he possibly can. As for your two number 8s, of course, they have slightly different roles. The likes of Matt O'Reilly is a bit more of the box-to-box player, can look to drop a bit deeper, help support the likes of McGregor as well as the centre-backs when building out from the back. But at the same time, he can look to sometimes break into the box, be a bit more of an attacking, almost a number 10 type player in certain moments. So therefore, for the attacking supports, balance best reflects and suits how he plays in real life and how Brendan Rodgers wants him to obviously run that position. As for the supports on crosses, like I mentioned earlier, he can look to try and hang on the edge of the box or break into it and try and score a few goals. As for the interceptions, I've set him to aggressive. You want your number 8 to be able to charge down the opposition, create a lot of havoc in the central areas of the field, as well as the defensive positioning is set to cover the center. Now, more so, if the fullbacks are out of position, you can look to try and select one of your number 8s and drag them out and more or less try and cover that area a bit more manually, but more so you want to try and have a nice compact central unit at all times. As for the offensive freedom, or the offensive positioning, the freedom of that, he is set to free roam, so therefore allowing him to drop into little half spaces, whether it's on the offensive side or the defensive side. When building out from the back, you would require the likes of Matt O'Reilly to be able to show for the ball a bit more, try and support the build-up play from the back, as well as when going forward, he can look to do a very similar role, popping up in the little half spaces, linking up play very effectively with the front line. So, taking a look at Bernardo, he's set to get forward. Of course, he does tend to take up a bit more of a number 10 type role in certain moments, being the furthest forward of the midfield 3. As for the support on crosses, however, just like the likes of Matt O'Reilly, he's set to a balanced approach, so allowing him to sometimes break into the box, other times hanging on the edge of the area, looking to try and facilitate a bit more and be a bit more of a playmaker for the players just in front of him. As for the interceptions, it's set to aggressive, and then just like with the other number 8 position, he is set to cover the center. So again, if the likes of Taylor is out of position, you can naturally look to try and drag the likes of Bernardo out into those wide areas to try and pick up the potential attacking players. I have set him to drift wide. He does tend to try and work in the little half space between the centre back and the wide, or sorry, the left back. At the same time, with the settings and the instructions for the wider players, of course, your wingers, they do tend to drift inside, so therefore you would expect and require the likes of Bernardo to try and drift into that wider area and somewhat be a bit more of a wide playmaker in certain moments, and therefore I think drift wide can help best replicate that role for him. Onto your two wingers, of course, both of them are set to the same set of instructions, so both of them are instructed to come back and help out on the defensive end. Of course, this is very much a Brendan Rodgers tactic. He does require his team to work very hard in and out of possession, so therefore the wingers are going to be told to have a defensive awareness for how they play. As for the transgression, however, it is set to a balanced width, so this can allow them to hang out wide, be a bit more of the touchline wingers, or potentially drift inside and be a bit more of an inverted forward, allowing them to pop off shots, get into the box, be a very good linking play between the midfield and the attack in certain moments, especially if they do tend to come inside. Of course, more naturally, with the forward runs being set to be on, they will look to try and break in behind, use their pace to try and exploit the opposition with. But in saying that, a balanced role does allow them to come a bit shorter, link up with the midfield in certain moments, and at the same time, they can look to be a bit more physical on those wider areas of the field, linking up very nicely with either the midfielders who do tend to drift and try and support, or potentially the on-running fullbacks who will also look to try and make those overlapping runs and more or less try and supply crosses and stuff into the box with the amount of space. As for the interceptions, I've set it to normal, of course, and then for the support on crosses, I did note that both the wingers tend to aggressively get into the box, making those back post runs more times than not. As you'll see here for the other winger, he's got the same set of instructions as well. Of course, moving on to your number 9. So, for the likes of Kyogo, he is set to a balanced width, allowing him to drift in and out of the central areas of the field, also allowing for him to vacate that spot for the likes of a Bernardo potentially, or the likes of a Matt O'Reilly in certain moments. As for the attacking runs though, you do want him to play as a false 9. He does tend to drop off the back line, link up very effectively with the players in and around him in the central areas of the pitch, as well as sometimes if he does drift into those wide areas, he can look to link up very effectively with the wingers, but more so you want him to be able to drop off the back line, get on the ball and look to try and drive and create for the players in and around him. As for the interceptions, of course, looking to try and implement that very aggressive style and nature of trying to win the ball back more times than not. He is going to be set to aggressive, looking to try and chase down the ball as much as possible, whether it's applying pressure to the goalkeeper or the opposition's backline. He's going to definitely do a very effective job. And then finally, for the defensive support, I've set into a basic defensive support, therefore allowing him to, yes, stay forward, be an outlet ball for a counter-attack, or potentially drop a bit deeper, and again, link up very effectively with the players in and around him. So there you have it, guys. That is how I would replicate a Brendan Rodgers 4-3-3 Celtic system in the game FC24. Apparently, by you contributing to the channel, by hitting that like button, it'll let the YouTube algorithm work its magic and share the video with many other people. So, if you guys could, hit that like button down below. And if you are new to the channel and you have enjoyed this video, I would absolutely appreciate it if you could subscribe. We are on the road to 5k, we are on the road to 10k, we are on the road to 50k, and eventually 100, and of course, a million. We'll get there eventually. But, out of 10, I will say, this system is a very effective one, but I think the overall of the squad as a whole does tend to let it down in terms of the quality outlets and whatnot. But I would give it a solid 7.5. I think it can be very good. Maybe with a better overall squad, it can be very good, like very, very, very good. But in terms of what I'm playing with and how I found the team going forward, some moments it can be a bit clunky, other moments it can work very well. The ability to drag players out of position, open up a lot of space for your attackers, all these things are massive pros, and they do allow you to more or less try and score a lot of goals. So the more goals, the better. So I think a 7.5 best suits how the system plays in the game FC24. Of course, you guys can let me know down below if you have tried it out and want to share your opinion out of 10. That would be absolutely fantastic as well. But until the next time, I'm out. I'll see you guys tomorrow.